Hello everyone, welcome to Learn with Healing Emotions once again. Today we will cover part 4 of Unit 1 given in the syllabus under Section A. What we had gone through in the previous classes, let's do a recap. In the last video we learned that everything has a historical root, so does psychology. During the evolution of the subject, many theories came into existence, some of which were rejected, some were approved, and some were partially accepted. What we have today is a more advanced and developed version of these theories. We learned two schools of thought. One was structuralism and second was functionalism. According to the syllabus provided by ISC, the next school of thought are behaviorism and gestalt psychology. And then we will cover psychoanalysis in the fifth part, which will end unit 1. Okay, fine. Now, behaviorism by John B. Watson. Now, John B. Watson and behaviorism. Uh, John B. Watson gave entirely new doctrine in his book Psychology as a Behaviorist Views. It was quite contrary to the previous two stories, that is structuralism and functionalism. And this was basically based on the findings of a Russian psychologist, Ivan Pavlov, who was the propagator of theory of classical conditioning. Why did he give this theory? Why were the earlier theories were criticized? He criticized earlier theories and said that the idea of consciousness is absurd. Why? Consciousness cannot be scientifically tested in a lab or simply cannot be studied. We all know that consciousness is a hypothetical one. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, we cannot hear it or feel it, nor can it be, exhibited in a test tube. So the thing which is beyond our senses, which we cannot see, which we cannot hear, which we cannot touch, how can we rely on them? And if we rely on them, how can these things be scientific? So this was the first criticism given by Watson, and second was that he propagated the third school of thought, the theory of behaviorism, because he felt that we should base our theory, we should base our study on more realistic thing rather than hypothetical one, which we can see, which we can hear, which we can feel. So behavior of a human being is a process. It's a response towards any stimulus, which we can report also, which we can feel through our senses. So this is more scientific according to Watson rather than consciousness. Now, what is the theory of behaviorism? Psychology was here intended to be a scientific study of behavior concentrated on observable and measurable behavior. Behaviorism as a method of studying the behavior focused its attention totally on the overt or observable behavior. For this purpose, it tried to reduce all of man's activity, including his thinking, feelings, and willing, to the level of that behavior which could be observed and objectively recorded. In this way, a behaviorist is not interested in the feeling of fear because it is not measurable, but he pays attention to the changes in heart rate and blood pressure, which are effects of fear and can be objectively measured. Now we can understand this कि हम जब भी कोई बिहेवियर करते हैं और कुछ फील करते हैं, दोनों में बहुत डिफरेंस होता है. When we feel something, that is very subjective. The person sitting in the front of me cannot, understand what's going in my mind. But if I'm running, if I'm talking, if my heartbeat is getting faster or slower, if there is some galvanic skin responses, if I'm stammering, if I'm not able to speak, all these responses, all this part of behavior a person, an individual can notice and can feel through his or her senses. So this is the difference between study of consciousness and behavior, because our feeling, our thought process, one can only know when we will explain it to the other person. क्या हम फील कर रहे हैं, मान लीजिए कोई चीज देख के हमें डर लग रहा है, अब हमें डर मन में लग रहा है, हम जब तक उसको बताएंगे, मान लीजिए हमें डर लग रहा है लेकिन हम उससे नहीं, एक जेस्चर होता है कि नहीं हम तो किसी चीज से डरते नहीं है, हम उससे कहते नहीं नहीं हमें डर नहीं लग रहा है, लेकिन उसके साथ ही अगर हम किसी चीज को देख के हमारे हार्ट बीट बढ़ जाती है, हम दौड़ने लगते हैं, हम उस चीज से घबराने लगते हैं, तो ये जो हमारा रिस्पॉन्स है, जो हमारा बिहेवियर है, ये ओवर्ट है, ये एक्सटर्नल है, ये कोई भी देख सकता है, कोई भी अपने सेंसेस से फील कर सकता है। तो यहाँ पर हमारा जो रिस्पॉन्स है वो झूठ नहीं बोले, तो एक्चुअल में हम क्या फील कर रहे हैं ये हमारे बिहेवियर और हमारे रिस्पॉन्स के थ्रू दूसरा स्टडी कर सकता है। और ये ज़्यादा साइंटिफिक है, क्योंकि जब हम थॉट्स प्रोसेस की बात करते हैं, कॉग्निशन की बात करते हैं, तो वो बहुत ही सब्जेक्टिव हो जाता है, हम वो जो दूसरे को बताते हैं उसको वही मानना पड़ता है। इसको एक तरह से हम और समझ सकते हैं, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड विद एन एग्जाम्पल। सपोज walking on a street, you come across a dog who all of a sudden starts barking at you. You are afraid of dogs, most of us. Now you have a feeling of helplessness or fear or tension and all of such emotions. When you tell some other person or me, when I examine this incident as a no proof whether you were actually scared or not, maybe you are a dog lover and you started acting as if you are scared. Structuralism and functionalism tried studying consciousness now. How do I know what actually your emotion was? So if I examine you through the theory of behaviorism, I will have some proofs. When structuralism and functionalism will examine you, they will simply ask what were you feeling, and whatever you will tell, they have to get convinced with that. But as a behaviorist, when I will examine, or some therapist will examine you through the theory of behaviorism, then he will have some proofs. Maybe your heart rate got faster, maybe you have started running that time, you had a pounding heart, or you started sweating. These things happen when you are fearful of something. Every thought has some reactions. When we feel disgust, when we feel fear, even your facial expressions explain or express many things which you feel. We all know this. Along with that, there are a few psychophysical activities in your body which can be measured scientifically. So these are overt. When we talk of a behavior, this is overt. It can be seen, thus be examined or tested or simply studied. This is what behaviorism resolves around: the overt behavior, the observable behavior. Now to understand this, we will go to Pavlov's classical conditioning and behaviorism. Pavlov conditioned a dog to salivate at the sound of bell by substituting that sound for the sight and smell of meat, and concluded that all behavior is a response to some stimulus in the environment. Watson tried to apply this approach in the field of human behavior. In his famous experiment with an 11-month-old child named Little Albert, he conditioned his behavior fear a rat by substituting the rat for a loud, sudden noise. He concluded behavior merely the result of response to some environmental stimulus. So in his experiment, what Pavlov did, he used a dog as a subject, और उस डॉग के सामने उन्होंने मीट या स्मेल प्रेजेंट किया, और उसको प्रेजेंट करने से पहले उन्होंने एक साउंड, एक अलार्म टाइप का बजाया, ठीक है, जैसे एक अलार्म बजा और उसके सामने मीट या मीट का इस पर कोई भी एडिबल आइटम आया, अब डॉग का जो रिस्पॉन्स है वो है कि मीट के आइटम पे वो सलाइवेट करेगा, जब भी कोई खाने का आइटम आएगा या उससे रिलेटेड खुशबू आएगी वाव, तो वो उस पर सलाइवेट करेगा। अब जब हर बार एक एसोसिएशन फॉर्म हुआ कि एक साउंड आई और अलोंग विद दैट साउंड विद इन फ्यू सेकेंड्स फूड वॉज प्रेजेंटेड, तो in the apprehension of food, dog started salivating on the sound of a bell. तो इससे ये इन्होंने इस्टेब्लिश किया कि हम जो भी रिस्पॉन्स देते हैं दैट इज ड्यू टू सम एनवायरमेंट स्टिमुलस, कोई ऐसा स्टिमुलस, कोई ऐसी चीज हमारे एनवायरमेंट में होती है जिसपे कि हम ये रिस्पॉन्स देते हैं, जिससे ये पता चलता है कि हम क्या फील कर रहे हैं। इसी तरह से एक लिटिल एल्बर्ट का एक्सपेरिमेंट बहुत ही पॉपुलर है। 11 मंथ का ये बच्चा था लिटिल एल्बर्ट, और इसको ये रैट के साथ और रैबिट के साथ बहुत खेलता था। अचानक एक दिन इसको जो रैट प्रेजेंट किया गया, जब रैट आया तो उसके साथ ही एक सडनली बहुत लाउड और अनोइंग नॉइस उसके साथ एसोसिएट की गई विद द प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ रैट, जिससे वो बच्चा डर गया। और जब वो बच्चा इससे डर गया तो जब उसके सामने वही रैट जाता था जिससे वो खेलता था, तो ही स्टार्टेड गिविंग फियरफुल रिएक्शन टुवर्ड्स दैट रैट बिकॉज दैट साउंड वाज अनोइंग, दैट वाज डिस्टर्बिंग, जिससे कि उसको डर लगता था। धीरे धीरे क्या हुआ, उसने ये सारे जो उसके ये रिएक्शन था, जो फियर था, वो जर्नलाइज हो गया बाकी सारे फर वाले ऑब्जेक्ट्स के साथ, जैसे उसके टेडी बियर के साथ, रैबिट के साथ। तो ये फियर जो है वो जर्नलाइज हो गया। इसके साथ ही वॉटसन ने कंक्लूड किया कि जो बिहेवियर है दैट इज रिजल्ट ऑफ अ रेस्पॉन्स टू सम एनवायरमेंटल स्टिमुलस। जो भी एनवायरमेंटल स्टिमुलस है उसके ही रिजल्ट से हम रेस्पॉन्स देते हैं, और जब हम कोई बिहेवियर करते हैं तो उस पर्टिकुलर एनवायरमेंटल स्टिमुलस के प्रति हम क्या फील कर रहे हैं, क्या थिंक कर रहे हैं, वो हमारे बिहेवियर से बिल्कुल अच्छे से स्टडी किया जा सकता है। और उसको हम साइंटिफिकली भी इस्टेब्लिश कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि जो हम देख रहे हैं और जो हमारा रिएक्शन आ रहा है, जो हमारा रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है, वो स्टडी किया जा सकता है साइंटिफिकली, क्योंकि दैट कैन बी इजिली सीन, दैट कैन बी इजिली ऑब्जर्व्ड एंड फेल्ट बाय सेंसेस। I think now behaviorism is clear to you all. So now we proceed to Gestalt psychology. The term Gestalt, as the theory was originated in Germany, the term obviously has German roots. The word Gestalt is a German noun. The nearest English translation of Gestalt is configuration, or more simply we can say an organized whole, in contrast recollection of parts. Therefore, Gestalt psychology is opposed to the atomistic, and an individual perceives the molecular approach to behavior according to this theory as a whole and not as a mere collection of its constituents or elements. What is Gestalt theory? Gestalt psychology is a school of thought that looks at the human mind and behavior as a whole. Instead, our minds tend to perceive objects as a part of a greater whole and as elements of more complex system. We take things as a whole and not as a part. For example, we can see while you look at this figure, you see it as a circle, as a whole, and you will at the very first glance tell me it is a circle, although it is not a completed circle. There are only dashes are given. But what about its parts? Because this is a part. This is a part. But when we are perceiving it as a whole, see it the other way around, a few dashes which have been put together, they are in parts, but we see it as a whole, because this is, this is what that we are not looking anything, we are not perceiving anything in a part, rather we are perceiving the things as a whole. The Gestaltists further claim that whole is different from the sum of its parts. As a result, the human behavior is characterized as an intelligent behavior rather than any simple stimulus response mechanization, because whatever we perceive it as a figure and background, we perceive it as a whole, not in parts. ऐसे बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं जिन्हें हम देखेंगे, जो कि जैसे अगर हम आसमान में देखते हैं, तो अगर हम ऐसा नहीं है कि केवल हम उसके तारे देख रहे हैं या चांद देख रहे हैं, हम हमेशा उसको आसमान के बैकग्राउंड पे देखते हैं. इसी तरह से गेस्टॉल्ट का कहना ये है कि जब भी हम कोई बिहेवियर परसीव करते हैं, जब भी हम कोई चीज़ परसीव करते हैं, तो हम उसका कंटेक्स्ट या बैकग्राउंड भी परसीव करते हैं अलोंग विद दैट पर्टिकुलर रिस्पॉन्स, क्योंकि हम पार्ट्स में चीज़ों को नहीं देखते हैं. जो हमारी हैबिट है वो चीज़ों को होल में परसीव करने की है, एंड बिकॉज वी परसीव द थिंग्स इन अ होल, due to this we are in the better position to understand why this particular behavior, why this particular response is given to the stimulus, and through this we have better understanding of any behavior or any response. Now coming to the insight of Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology used the term insight to describe this type of human behavior and summarize the behavioral process under the following 3 steps. A. Perception of the situation as a whole. As we talked earlier, he emphasized on perceiving the situation as a whole, not as a part. Every individual perceives any behavior, any type of situation in the background. B is seeing and judging the relationships between various factors involved in the situation. They won't only depend on what they are perceiving in the parts, they also pay their attention towards, various factors which are influencing the situation, which are involved in the situation. And last is taking an immediate decision and behave accordingly. On the basis of the whole, not on the basis of the parts, on the basis of whole, on the basis of totality, they perceive the things, and on that basis only they take immediate decisions and do their behavior according to the whole situation. So thanks for watching. If you have any doubts in part 1 or in any part, you can ask in the comment section or simply DM me on my Instagram handle. Do like, share and subscribe. I will be covering more topics in my upcoming videos. Like part 5 will deal with psychoanalysis, which will be the last part of unit 1. Till then, thank you.